You're watching Today. Breaking news this morning. Security incident at Buckingham Palace. As you can see, a man has been detained and a controlled explosion conducted after a suspected shotgun cartridges were thrown onto palace grounds.
Let's bring in Associate Editor at the UK's Daily Telegraph, Camilla Tomini now. Good morning, Camilla. I mean, this was a bit of a scare at the palace. Were the King and Queen consort home at the time?
We don't know that yet, Sarah. I mean, they've been flitting between Windsor Castle, Clarence House and Buckingham Palace in preparation for the coronation. Obviously, they're having to carry out rehearsals. Just reading up now on what the latest is on this incident. It happened at 7 p.m. our time, which is about 2.5 hours ago. Said the man was carrying a suspicious bag and his possessions are now being investigated. The media area in front of the palace, as you can imagine, there are already lots of media outside the palace in preparation for Saturday. That's been evacuated. A spokesman has said officers quickly detained a man after he approached the gates of Buckingham Palace and threw a number of items suspected to be shotgun cartridges into the palace grounds. I mean, these things do happen. We've had quite a lot of kind of protest activity on the ground here, not just at royal events, people protesting for republics and saying not my king, but also just generally we've had Extinction Rebellion and all those other groups that I know have also disturbed things in Australia. So on one hand, the police have got to look out for those sorts of campaigners. But as is ever the case, when I ever speak to royal bodyguards, the people that they're always most afraid of are kind of lone individuals who might have personal vendettas or want to do something silly. So as ever, there's a heightened police presence anyway, but one imagines that will now be ramped up after this incident.
Well, yeah, it'll be doing that in the next couple of days. I mean, for the Queen's funeral, it was quite an extraordinary operation, and you'd have to think, I mean, it's one of the great things about Buckingham Palace that you can walk up to the gates. When does that all kick in?
Well, at the moment, the whole area is open. I think the actual roadblocks don't come into place until late on Friday night, early Saturday morning. And that's because a palace in the centre of the capital, and let's be honest, this is a major thoroughfare, lots of people coming in and out. They're saying that they don't want to grind the capital to a halt for this. That's why the procession, for instance, isn't 5 miles long as it was in Queen Elizabeth II's day in 1953, that it's only 1.3 miles because they don't want the West End to be closed. You know, London's still recovering like Sydney and other cities from the pandemic. So in that regard, they're trying to keep things as open as possible. But as you say there, Carl, you can get right up to the gates. You can have a peek inside. So, I mean, to be honest, if you try and go through the gates, may I point out, you quickly get clobbered by a load of coppers. But yeah, of course, they'll be extra vigilant.
That's for sure. Now, Camilla, turning to the coronation, of course, a lot's been made about swearing allegiance to the King. Our own PM, who's a Republican, says that he will. But then the King's turned around and asked whether he will even be welcomed in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because they've met this morning, your Prime Minister Albanese and indeed the King, looking very jolly there, isn't he? Look, shaking his hand and smiling. But of course, the fact that he's made no secret of his Republican tendencies, that he's appointed this Minister for the Republic, I think has made the King wonder whether he is indeed welcome in Oz. There could be some diplomatic delicacy around this visit, by the way, because I think there's also a keenness, as far as the Australians are concerned, to have the Prince and Princess of Wales back after Prince George's amazing debut, which I remember fondly in 2014. I was at that engagement in Taronga Zoo and all the rest of it. So they want to recreate that magic. And of course, they'd love to have George, Charlotte and Louis visit Australia. But obviously, if the Prime Minister makes an offer to the King, and he could do that at any point this week, there's a VIP lunch on Friday ahead of the coronation, then there's a reception on Friday night, then that make the planning slightly awkward, because an invitation to the King means that William and Kate would kind of be relegated further down the line.
All right, lots to sort out. We'll talk to you tomorrow, same time, same station. Thank you.
Thanks, Camilla.
We have breaking news. There's been a major security incident outside of Buckingham Palace this morning, sending it into lockdown. A man has been arrested after throwing what is believed to be shotgun cartridges into palace grounds. Loud noises could be heard on a broadcast outside.
The Metropolitan Police, and I don't know what it is.
Evacuate now.
We're going to have to evacuate now.
The police are live with us now and telling us that we've got to evacuate even
I don't see why we could possibly have to move.
So I'm very sorry to say that it is good evening for me for the time being, as I think that was probably a controlled explosion in the background. That's what it sounded like to me. We will no doubt find out later, but I assume as it's happened, do they need us still to evacuate? Because that's now been and gone. They still need us to evacuate.
The King wasn't at the palace at the time, and it came just hours after he met with Anthony Albanese in London. The people are right now flocking to London with just days to go before the coronation of King Charles, an event we haven't seen since '53.
9 correspondent from Europe, Brett McLeod, is there among all the pomp and pageantry.
The Union Jacks have been hung, the crown jewels polished, but the finishing touches underway as London prepares for its first coronation in 70 years.
Put Britain on the world stage again, and goodness, we do that so well. Our pageantry around the coronation will just be amazing.
Procession parade has been practiced, the flyover formations refined. The choirs have been perfecting their pitch for months. All to be ready for when King Charles is crowned at Westminster Abbey, continuing a 1,000-year-old tradition. The significance not lost on these 10-year-olds.
I feel very special that I get to see amazing moments in history.
Thousands of tourists flocking to the UK to be part of the occasion.
It's a city that helps tell a beautiful fairy tale, you know, the royals and everything that is around them.
High teas have been sold out as visitors lap up the quintessential English experience. We're told Darjeeling is the King's favourite. But balancing a cuppa on a double-decker is perhaps not quite how Charles enjoys his brew. For those looking for their moment as a would-be monarch, one can take a ride in a replica golden carriage or sit on a fake throne to inspect their kingdom from the London Eye, with regalia to boot.
I know I'm holding replicas, but you still feel, my goodness, this is the weight, this is the huge weight of the monarchy.
This monarchy, a little lighter, His Majesty shrunk for a coronation recreation of Legoland proportions, complete with crown.
And we've had a gold-plated crown commissioned for the event.
6 model makers spending thousands of hours crafting that iconic balcony wave, and even the coronation concert, which will take place at Windsor Castle.
Between 25,000 and 30,000 bricks just for the concert scene, which is like a full orchestra and some very famous guests.
It's fair to say that, like Legoland, this coronation compared to its predecessor is smaller in scale and possibly enthusiasm. But it's expected as we get closer to the big day, more and more people will try to grab their own little memento for a moment in history. Memorabilia is being churned out en masse, including chinaware produced at a traditional kiln and factory linked to the royal household.
The process that we use to make our commemorative china has remained largely unchanged for centuries.
A mug, a pillbox, a teacup and saucer, and a Christmas decoration among the keepsakes, each marked with commemorative emblems.
Entwined ribbons to represent the partnership between their majesties, and other devices such as oak leaves representing strength and laurel leaves representing peace.
Also up for grabs, a pretty penny, or 50 pence more like. Britain's Royal Mint unveiling celebratory coins, the first with a crowned effigy of Charles.
The making of coins for coronations is actually a reasonably modern thing. So it begins with the commemorative coin for Elizabeth II when we do a coronation crown piece.
And of course, there's a beer fit for a king, brewed in Windsor, just a stone's throw from the castle.
We would be delighted to welcome the King and the Queen Consort to come and have a drink here with us. If they can't come here, we'll send a beer to the castle.
No doubt there'll be more than a few cheers with the Royal Ale come the big day this weekend.
Oh, I love beer.
That's the takeaway? You love beer. I mean, I love beer too.
Warm, flat beer, though.
No, I just want a pint.
Just a Carlton Draft.
Yeah, a pint of Carlton Draft.
A pub in Melbourne.
Stop it. And 9 will have, no matter what you're drinking, complete coverage of the coronation of King Charles this Saturday, beginning with a special edition of Weekend Today from 6 a.m. when you're getting home from the clubs.
And the beer. Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?